So first of all, Tucker Carlson interviewed a murderous dictator. I say interviewed. He actually just sat there and looked at him like a dog that had been shown a card trick for 2 hours while the dictator gave us this long-winded, boring history lesson. And the dictator made fun of Tucker straight to his face. Made fun of him right to his face and is continuing to do so. He's out there talking about how bad the interview was, how that Tucker didn't have the guts to ask him any tough questions. Meanwhile, Tucker is on this crusade to make Russia look like the greatest place on earth. He's talking about how great Moscow is, how it's better and it's nicer than any city in America. He's talking about how nasty our subways are versus how pristine theirs is. He's out going grocery shopping and showing the grocery bill. Look how cheap the groceries are over here. He's not putting anything into context, but it doesn't matter because he's on a crusade to make Russia look like the greatest place ever and make Putin look like the greatest leader of all time. And there are people back home who are just lapping this up, going, yeah, man, that's the kind of leader we need right there, man. I wish our country was like that. I wish we was like that over there. And now Russian TV is mocking Trump supporters, talking about how they're rednecks and they're primitive people who the only way you can communicate with them is through cliches and slogans. Does that sound familiar? That's what I've been sitting here forever saying, is that the only way you can communicate with these people is if you can whittle it down and put it on a bumper sticker. And they get so mad at me for pointing these things out and so mad at me for trying to point out that, hey, you guys are being played here, that the most messed up part about this whole thing is they will find a way to be mad at me again for pointing out that the Russians are making fun of them instead of being mad at the Russians for making fun of them. They'll find a way to twist it, and Brando will be the bad guy because I pointed it out, and they'll find a way to defend the Russians. That's where we're at. I never would have dreamed when I was a kid growing up in the 80s that we would ever be to a point where people I grew up with would be on the same side with Russia and wishing that this country was more like that. But they think this because of all the propaganda that Tucker Carlson and these right-wing pundits have spewed. They believe this because Tucker sits and tells them that, oh, over in Russia, you know, Putin, he's anti-woke. He doesn't go for all this woke bullshit, and that's all they have to hear. They don't know what woke even means. They don't know what woke even stands for. They just know that it's a bad word in their world, and they're not supposed to ever listen to any idea that starts off by saying it's woke. They don't know what a liberal is. They don't know what a progressive is. They don't know none of those things. They don't know the definition or what none of the people actually stand for. They just know that's the enemy, and they're not supposed to agree with it under any circumstances. I remember several years ago, I was sitting and talking with this kid. He was probably like early 20s. And he said to me, he said, yeah, man, honestly, I don't even know what a liberal is. I just know I'm not supposed to like them. Now, let's think about this for a minute. There's kids that's going to vote for the first time. They're going to be 18. They're 18 years old. They're going to be voting for the first time, right? So 8 years ago, in 2016, they were 10 years old. Those kids grew up with Trump supporting family members who told them that everything that was woke was bad and everyone that was liberal was bad, and they've not been educated on any of it. They don't know any of it. They just know they're not supposed to like us, and they know they're not supposed to like our ideas. That's all they know. And that's why I have such a problem when I see progressives on our side of the fence demonizing woke and going off on these big anti-woke rants. That's why I pick at Bill Maher so much for this, because I feel like people like that is doing a disservice because, yes, there have been extremists that have took things too far. That's on both sides of the fence. I'll give you that all day long. There has absolutely been extreme cases that have went too far. But when you demonize the idea as a whole, you're discrediting it. And when you do, people who grew up never being exposed to racism, never being exposed to bigotry, never being exposed or made aware of the struggles that other people go through, then they just hear you talking that way and they write it off. Yeah, see there, even that guy, he's liberal, and even he says it's bullshit. And they go through this world. Do you think that kids raised up that had Trump-supporting family members, do you think that they've ever actually sat and listened to a black man explain how he has to live in this country? Do you think they've actually ever sat and talked to anyone that they disagreed with about anything? No, they've not, because they've just bought into the propaganda and the bullshit to the point that they didn't even realize what Russia has always been. Back when I was a kid growing up, I got poked fun at a lot because I was always reading. I would go to the library during lunch or recess, and I would sit and read a book. And the kids used to make fun of me for it. Why ain't you outside playing ball? Well, I suck at sports, to be honest with you, and I don't have no interest in it. I'm in here reading this book. I'm reading this book about Malcolm X. I'm reading this book about World War II. I'm reading this book about the Civil War. I'm reading this book about the foundation of the country. Why do you want to know that stuff, man? That shit's boring, man. That shit's boring right there. Well, those same guys that told me that shit was boring grew up and raised their kids under Trump to never be aware of anything, so therefore they have no education on any of it. And that's why I have such a big problem when I see progressives going after and demonizing woke. You should always keep your eye on the ball, and we should continue to raise awareness on issues that matter, because there's kids out there that are never going to be exposed to it, and they sure as hell ain't going to be exposed to it as long as Tucker Carlson is out there talking to their daddy and telling their daddy how great Russia is. That kid's going to sit there and listen to that stuff, and that's why this stuff never goes away. Back when I was a teenager, I remember seeing the footage of the black people being beat with clubs and sprayed with water hoses. I remember the infamous picture of the squirting the mustard and the ketchup on their heads while they sat at the counter. And I used to say to myself, where'd those people go? Like, where did the bad guys go? Because I was raised up around some good people. I was raised up around people who would give you the shirt off their back. The best people I've ever grew up around in my life. The best people I've ever known. But I used to say to myself, where did all those bad people go? Well, they just went home and they raised kids. And they stayed quiet for a long time. They didn't say a whole lot. We didn't really hear from them that much. They were there. They were right under our nose. Those good people that I grew up around was right under my damn nose. They were just staying quiet about it because we had raised awareness. Our parents' generation had raised awareness and had made people realize that being a racist is fucking wrong. And then along came Donald Trump, and he just ripped the Band-Aid, and he let everybody be free to say whatever they wanted to say. And that's why you were suddenly going, shit, man, I really thought my neighbor, I really thought my uncle, I really thought my cousin, I really thought my aunt, I really thought they were good people. But listen to shit they're saying now. They were the same people that would have sprayed them with water hoses, was sitting back cheering while they were being sprayed with water hoses. It's the same damn people. And that's why we can't stop talking about what's going on, is because there's a generation being raised and brainwashed into believing that no one has a problem in this world but them. And what's their problem? That there's a gay display at the Target. That's their struggle. That's their plight in life. That's what they have to worry about. Well, I don't really give a damn if some bigot is afraid of walking through Target. I want to raise awareness on the black boy who's afraid to walk home because of what might happen to him at the hands of the police. And if that offends people, fine. I don't care. But Tucker Carlson is empowering this bigotry. And in my mind, he's a traitor to everything that we ever stood for. And if we sit back on the ropes and let him continue to talk and don't call that kind of crap out, then that's exactly what's going to happen. They're going to turn this country into what they see Russia becoming and what Russia is, and they'll go for it. And I guess all I can say now is just let all the bots get in the comment section and muddy the water.